good evening. This time, This Is Your Life has come here to the House of Commons, not to surprise a politician, but to surprise someone from a totally different world, the world of art, a friend of pop stars, politicians and priests alike. He should in fact be arriving, we hope, any moment by car. With him is Mr. Eric Ogden, Member of Parliament, and some friends, and they're coming here to arrange an exhibition here in the spring. In fact, I think that's their car now. Welcome to London. I don't see it. I know the reason for your visit here. Do you know why I'm here? No. I'll tell you why. Because Arthur Dooley, tonight, this is your life.
You can.
Thank you for postponing that meeting of the House of Commons, and thank you, Eric Ogden, for helping to spring the surprise on him. Now, will you tell us, please, Eric, what's the exhibition all about that you were going there to?
Well, this is to show that Liverpool is not only a great city and a great port, but that it has artists and sculptors and painters equally, if not better than any in the land.
And of course, this is the Worker Artists Association, isn't it?
Yes, this is the Merseyside Worker Artists Association.
I understand that largely thanks to our friend here, it's been proved a great success.
Very successful indeed, both on Merseyside. Now we've brought it to the home of the workers, the Palace of Westminster. And we hope that when the show goes on, we'll have members of Parliament, members of the government, members of the House of Lords, just to show what workers really can do.
Well, I know that you've got another meeting in the House of Commons to attend, and thanks a lot for joining us, Eric Ogden. Thank you.
Good night.
That particular exhibition that we're talking about could give some unknown Liverpool artist the break that he's been waiting for. Artists like three who are here in our audience tonight. Peter Shaw rather, who's a car factory worker and called his painting Don Quixote. And there's Ian Pendleton. You're a process artist and call your painting Work and Play. And there's Alan Jones. What do you do, Alan?
Actually, I'm a dustman. I've been painting for about 6 years, with no success whatsoever, till I met Arthur. And since our first meeting, he recommended me to keep work hard at my paintings, not to give up. And since then, I can honestly say I'll sell at least one painting a week. And this is all thanks to Arthur, and I'd like to say thank you very much to him now for all the help that he's given me, because without his help, it would never have been possible now to give up a good year or so ago.
And that painting that you've got with you now, you call that what?
This I call Lady Jane.
Lady Jane. Well, thank you, boys, and all success to you. Arthur, I also know... Oh, you're all right for here. You sit down. But I know it's not long ago since you had your first break. In fact, it was February 1962. That was a virtual unknown. You were given your first London exhibition. It's not a lavish affair, but it resulted in your work being seen for the first time by millions of people. And mainly thanks to one man who gave you a spot on his television show. You remember who that was?
Mr. Moore.
You're quite right. The then anchorman of the BBC Tonight programme. Come in, Cliff Mitchell-Moore. I gather that he gave you a few anxious moments before the programme.
Well, Arthur, as you know, has got a particular way of expressing himself. You've already experienced that. And we were rather on the edge of our seats, wondering how he was going to express himself on the programme.
Did you get any complaints?
No, we didn't. He behaved himself very well. Mind you, we told him, didn't we? Yeah.
How did he come to be on the show in the first place?
One of our girl researchers went down, knew about the small exhibition, came back with the pictures and said he's an absolute marvellous chap. We've got to have him on. Look at these.
Xanthi Wakefield.
That's it, Xanthi Wakefield.
Yeah.
And we looked at these pictures and we said, right, what's he like, Xanthi? And she said, he's a kind of sculptural Brendan Bean.
I love it.
And we said, right, get him. So he came down, he brought down 8 of his sculptures down to the studio. We looked at them. I remember introducing him, saying that I thought in 100 years' time his name would be known and perhaps the Beatles wouldn't in Liverpool. And he brought down 8 and sold 6 of them in the studio.
In the studio, were you one among the buyers?
Yeah, I was. Ken Allsop, George Melly, Xanthi Wakefield bought one, Jack Gold, and I bought one. I'm very pleased I did too.
This is the one here that you bought. How much did you buy it for?
I paid him 15 quid. He wanted to sell it to me for a £5. And we got him 15 quid for it, Arthur. What do you think it's worth now?
Oh,
You remember that one?
Yeah.
You upset your mother by describing it. Winged victory.
I forgot about
Miss
that.
Justice, who's raped every day, who said, and that's why she's pregnant.
I'm in call myself some mother.
There we are. And you upset your mother by how much is it worth now, Arthur?
I don't know. It's a nice piece though, isn't it?
It is a nice piece.
Most of the lads.
You can cast your eyes at it, but you're not going to have it, Arthur, I'll tell you.
Thank you
very
very
proud
much,
of it.
Glenn. Thank
Very
you.
much.
Thank you, Arthur.
Television appearance with Cliff put you on the road to national acclaim, but of course your story begins long before that. It starts, in fact, on January the 17th, 1929, when you're born at Oxford Street Maternity Hospital, Liverpool. The son of a docker, you spend most of your childhood in Liverpool 8, a tough area on the fringe of the city's old Chinatown. And we have a picture of you, I think, at the age of 4. But 6 years after that picture was taken, you're evacuated.
They only sent us 18 miles to Chester, but to our Arthur, it was like another world.
The little girl who went with you on that short train ride from Liverpool Central Station, your sister Doreen. Isn't it nice to hear a brother greet a sister saying you're looking lovely? Now tell me, Doreen, what was so strange about Chester?
It's because we'd never been out of Liverpool before. We'd only been across the water to New Brighton, and Chester was a long, long way away.
How did he react to his new surroundings
Oh,
there?
like Arthur, he always reacts. He said, this is great. He was asking the kids sitting next to him, what country are you from?
Where did they come from?
They came from Liverpool, like ourselves.
Well, now, he seemed quite happy with another picture we have in his classroom at Cherry Grove School, Chester. Now, did he eventually accept his new world there?
Oh, yes, he did. He went to rather a posh house, came back saying, may I have some more beans, Mother?
Can you still do that accent you had then?
No, not really. no. Sorry, what's I can't get over it.
All right, we won't ask you to ask for more beans. Thank you very much, Dorian. Now, Arthur, you're home again in Liverpool. You leave school at the age of 14, and naturally, you look to the River Mersey, where you take a variety of jobs, including one as a welder with Camel Laird's and another as a tug boy. And then at the age of 16, you become a boy soldier with the 1st Battalion of the Irish Guards. And on Form 271B, you're asked to list your profession. Now, it must have been very difficult having so many jobs. Which did you put down? Can you remember?
No.
Well, I'll tell you what you put down, because we've checked up the form. You put down tramp. Well, that was a spark of DOOLEY humour, but I know, Arthur, that it wasn't all laughs in the army. And out in Palestine, you take a spot of unofficial leave and end up in a British Army detention centre in Moasker in Egypt. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but it wasn't just for leaving. I took a couple of tanks, I think. Something like that, you know.
What did you get?
I got 3 years.
Did you serve the 3?
No. I got a job as a boot repairer, although I couldn't repair boots. I volunteered for them. And I got out for good behaviour, you know. I did about 8 or 9 months.
Well, I feel we've short-circuited something there, but there you are. Anyhow, getting out as boot repairer, you're posted to Tripoli and then home to Chelsea. Chelsea Barracks, where you meet a priest whom you later describe as the first professional man to treat you as an equal. You remember him?
Yeah, Father Casey.
That's right. From Kirby now, where he's waiting to return to his mission in Nigeria, the same Father Michael Casey. Quite obviously, Father, you made quite an impression on this character. What was it in particular that made you such good friends?
Well, of course, Arthur was only a teenager that time, you know. You were once a teenager, Arthur. And we came out from Palestine together. Then we were in Chelsea Barracks here in London. Afterwards in Germany. And through all that time, I thought Arthur was very much an unconventional peacetime soldier. And immensely liked his approach to Christianity was rather unconventional also, but it was intelligent, honest, and deeply sincere. And sound as could be on the things in Christianity that really matter. So I was not surprised, I was very delighted when Arthur said he'd like to be received into the church.
Now, this is a serious side of Arthur Dooley we don't often see, but there was another side that you told us about, the regimental piper.
Yes, well, now, this is the thing that Arthur and the 1st Battalion Irish Guards, were both of them, like to forget, and therefore, Eamon, it's between you and me in confidence.
Yes.
Arthur was one of the battalion pipers, and he was chosen, detailed, in fact, to lead out the bank picket from Chelsea Barracks one evening. The form was you'd march along the embankment and then swing left over to the bank. And of course, Arthur thinks a lot of the Bank of England, so naturally he wanted to guard it. And when they all turned left, Arthur didn't. And I'm sorry to say, the last that was seen of him, Arthur playing Kelly, the boy from Killan, up King William Street.
Thank you very much, Father Casey. When your battalion goes to Germany, you're chosen for another rather unusual job. You're picked to help run an army Roman Catholic retreat at Herdecke near Dortmund. Do you remember the warrant officer who recommended you for this job? I'll tell you who he was then.
George Howe.
He was, no, your RSM. He's now a retired major. You haven't seen him for nearly 20 years. Come in, Major Bill Rooney. Tell me, Major, how did you come to recommend this rambunctious character for a job like that?
Oh, the idea of this retreat was that it should be for the spiritual types.
Yes.
But of course it didn't work out quite like that.
I'm sure it didn't.
It sometimes attracted those who always wanted to dodge the column.
Well, why did you pick Arthur then?
Oh, because he knew all these characters. There was no better man for the job.
Did he do well then?
He did indeed. So well that he was made an acting sergeant.
Thank you, Major Rooney. You'll have a lot to talk about, I know that. Well, promotion or not, Arthur, you decide that the army is not the life for you. You buy yourself out and return to England. You take a £3.10 a week job as a sweeper up at the St Martin's School of Art in London. Yet that menial job is to change your life. You start picking up scraps of metal discarded by the students. You're still picking up scraps of metal today. And with the knowledge that you gleaned as a young shipyard welder, you take to sculpting in metal. Now, what I want to ask you, Arthur, is what was it about St Martin's that made you realise you could become a sculptor?
I thought they were all puddings, quite honestly. Mostly debutantes and all kinds of middle-class wasters who had nothing to do but... And what I did learn there is that what they had to say about that wasn't worth knowing. And the experience I'd had with people like you've met here, real people, you know, in life, that who had something to say, that I had more to say to them. So I I learned that there was nothing in the articles for me, and that was worthwhile.
Well, in the process of trying to say what you wanted to say, about 12 months later you returned to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And you worked first as a park policeman, then in a factory, but in your spare time you spent at sculpting. And I understand that this gave you some accommodation problems.
That's putting it mildly. The neighbours got so fed up that they started putting the windows in with air gun pellets.
Well, that's one voice you should know well. Then your landlord at 58 Huskinson Street, Liverpool, now your close friend and business associate, Alan Williams. Alan, tell me, what made the neighbours so angry then?
Well, Arthur had the basement flat, which was his workshop come studio. And he had sort of unconventional hours. He was not a 9-to-5 boy. And he had this oxygen acetylene plant. And when he worked, all these blue flashes not only lit up our house, but the whole of the street. And one morning, about 4 o'clock in the morning, one of the tenants came down and said, "Alan, please, can you go downstairs and tell Arthur to stop working?" So I said, "Why, Gillian?" She said, "Well, somebody's firing at the window with air guns and they bust the windows."
So how did you solve the problem?
Well, I got fed up going to bed with a gas mask on every night. And you see the size of him. I told my wife, Beryl, that he had to go.
So you evicted him, or she did. Thank you very much.
She did, yes.
But despite that experience, you and Alan remain friends, and it's he who helps to organise the first exhibition of your work at the Blue Angel Club. This was in Liverpool in 1961. The following year we hear of a second exhibition, this time also at Liverpool. But not everyone likes your work. In fact, one critic goes so far as to burst into the exhibition and smash up one of your exhibits with a hammer.
Oh, no.
Yes. But at least the newspapers see the amusing side to it. Now, soon after that, you're in the news again when you're commissioned to do your most important work yet. That's the Stations of the Cross at the new church in Leyland, Lancashire. And the brilliance of that work wins you worldwide acclaim. And if you look at this screen here, you will see the man to whom it means more than anyone else, the priest at St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church, the man who gave you that so important commission, Father Edmund Fitzsimons.
People say to me, "Oh, Dooley, that awful man who appears on television, you mean?" Well, I say to these people, have you seen Arthur Dooley's famous Stations of the Cross at Leyland? Because until you have seen them, you will not understand the real Arthur Dooley. He is totally dedicated, and to work with him is a rewarding experience. Arthur's Stations of the Cross in this church are now internationally famous. Christ is condemned to death. Christ receives the cross. Notice the little Oxfam baby with his little cross in imitation of Christ, a cause very dear to Arthur Dooley's heart. And this one, the 12th station, Christ dies upon the cross, bringing peace to the world. Notice the peace banner above Christ's head. Peace, again, a cause very dear to Arthur's heart. And finally, Christ is laid in the tomb. Notice that very beautiful head of Christ. No sculptor has ever done a finer head of Christ. And now Arthur's 15th station in its own little chapel, the risen Christ. In many ways, I think this is Arthur's finest sculpture.
But in fact, Father Fitzsimons is here tonight and he must come in and take a pew. Come in, Father. With the completion of that church in 1964, the name of Arthur Dooley takes on a new significance in the world of art. A year later, you have all sorts of work coming in and offers are pouring in and you become a very, very busy man.
So busy that I was left with the job of opening a cathedral exhibition without any exhibits.
That exhibition was at Liverpool's new Metropolitan Cathedral, and the man to whom you did not get your exhibits to the church on time, playwright and author Alan Owen. Alan, tell me, why were there no exhibits?
Well, you see, what had happened was, Arthur asked me to open the exhibition, but he gave me very strict instructions, the lad did. He said, now listen you, Owen, I don't want you coming up and opening this exhibition and hogging it all, because you know what you're like. You'll take over, it'll all be Alan Owen, and it's my exhibition. Just a quiet little dignified opening. Anyway, when I got there, all the stuff wasn't there, if you remember. So I said to Alan Williams, what do I do? And he said, get on with it, So I started doing the full variety act, telling jokes, laughing, doing everything, doing the splits. And I had 5 nuns sitting in front of me, and they weren't a very good audience. And as I was doing this, I suddenly looked up and I saw little men and big men creeping around with statues, and gradually around us an exhibition was sort of flowering. But this had got one wonderful thing to it, because the centrepiece of this exhibition was Arthur's Dachau, which is one of the most wonderful pieces of sculpture I've ever seen in my life. It's Christ on the cross. And it, for me, gave me more sense, for the first time in my life, the urgency of the physical pain of Christ on the cross. It drips with pain, and I just think it is the most wonderful. It's great, isn't it?
I agree.
Thank you.
I've got to agree with that.
The Dachau was later bought by Oldham Art Gallery, a town only a few miles away from a grammar school at which your career takes another turn. In fact, in June 1966, Arthur Dooley, an artist who has never had a single art lesson in his life, is taken on as a teacher at Whitworth Secondary School, Lancashire.
And it was fortunate we had a flexible timetable system.
It's the headmaster who ran that school. He's now an inspector of schools at Nottingham. Come in, Jack Featherston. Why was it fortunate you had a flexible timetable?
Well, you see, Eamon, the idea was that Arthur should work for me 2 days a week. The difficulty was finding out which days. Any morning, the phone was likely to ring, and it would be Arthur just simply saying, I'm coming in today.
But I gather he also did quite a bit of overtime.
Yes, he did. I remember on the day, for instance, that we finished for the summer holidays, the phone rang at my home in the evening, and it was Arthur on the phone, and he wanted to know if it was true that we were beginning then a 6-week holiday spell. You remember, Arthur?
Yeah.
Yes, it is true, I said. His reply was, well, you might say characteristic. But artists don't knock off in the middle of a bloody job, he said. I'm coming into work on Monday morning.
Did he?
He did. I had to go round and tour the area during the weekend and round up the group of pupils who worked with him. And it's indicative of the response that they made to his great skill and talent as an artist, to his warmth of personality, and to his natural flair as a teacher, that they eagerly came in. No, Arthur, this is true. They eagerly came in, boy, and spent a couple of weeks, as you know, of their summer holiday working often till 11 and 12 at night, and so did I, in order to finish work that they'd started before the holidays.
Yeah, thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
There are 2 people in your life, Arthur, who are very important. They're always fought shy of the limelight, but we've managed to persuade them tonight. Your father, who's unwell but got a special doctor's permission to travel, he's here with your mother. Come in, Arthur and Bessie Dooley. If you look at that screen once more, there's another member of the family right over here, Arthur, who on New Year's Eve he reached the ripe old age of 90. We couldn't do the show without him. It's your grandfather, Charles Tompkinson.
I am very sorry that I'm unable to come down to see you. But I will see you again soon. I hope you have the best of luck. And we've had the dictionary out to find out what the word reprobate means. And we found them, and I thank you very much.
Arthur, would you mind explaining why your granddad had to get out the dictionary to know what the word meant?
Well, it was his birthday, and I picked up this. I'm too lazy to go out and get a proper birthday card for him, so I picked up the telephone and sent a telegram thing. And for a laugh, we said, happy birthday, you old reprobate. Oh.
So now he knows what you meant.
He stuck it on me there. He shouldn't take it on.
He's right.
He's right.
Anyhow, Arthur, your story is just complete. Now, earlier on, we mentioned this exhibition at which, you had to throw out a student who was smashing up one of your exhibits, and you took it all very seriously, but we found that student in New York.
And after 8 years, I think it's time my name was cleared.
Well, come in and clear your name. That same student, now record producer Adrian Barber. That's a much quieter entrance now that you made into his exhibition. Were the newspapers exaggerating what happened?
Oh no, they weren't exaggerating.
Go on, tell us the truth about this again.
Go on.
Come on, tell us.
Well, you see, the whole thing was rigged.
I threw him out.
No, you threw him out. We want to hear what came before. Come on.
Yeah, go on.
Well, Arthur had made this big sculpture. It was like a 14-foot beam with a piece of drain pipe nailed to the side. And
he put a price on it, did he?
Yeah, £900.
Guineas.
And they talked me into going in with a hammer and shout, "Rubbish, rubbish," and smashing this thing with a hammer.
And of course this more or less happened at the same time as the newspaper men were there.
Yeah, the press arrived just as the hammer was hitting the thing.
Were the newspaper boys impressed?
Oh yes, they were impressed. But I wasn't. Arthur did about as much damage to me as I did to his work with the hammer.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Well, there you are. Anyhow, they certainly did. He'll kill you afterwards, but they certainly did come up and take notice. And as we've just gathered, of course, your Stations of the Cross made you internationally famous. Father Fitzsimons, would you sum up this character for us?
Well, he's a genius whose name will go down as one of the great artists of the 20th century.
Arthur Dooley, this is your life.
Thanks very much.